Hi, everyone. This is Kirk Kinder from Picket Fence Financial. And this month, we're going to talk a little bit about identity theft. Specifically, how can you protect yourself from identity theft? And what do you do if you become a victim of that? So let's start off a little bit with what's the real risk. And you hear a lot about identity theft in the press, but how's it really going to impact you? Well, it actually will have a huge impact. Every year, 15 million people are affected, and the financial fallout from that is a loss of $50 billion. So that's some serious money. And when they talk about identity theft here with the 15 million people, it could be somebody's credit card's compromised, bank account, debit card. It's not necessarily someone stealing your identity completely and opening accounts, although that is included in there. Now, the financial risk to you personally, it really depends on what kind of identity theft you have. So if somebody steals your credit card and uses it, you're only liable for $50 of the loss. That's if you inform the credit card company within 50 days. So if you're checking your credit card statement every month and you see something that you didn't authorize, so long as you let them know, the max you're going to be subject to is a $50 loss, even if the person or people who stole your credit card spent $3,000-$4,000 or more. Now, as far as your checks, your banking account, technically the bank is responsible for any forged checks. Regulators kind of put an extra level of responsibility on the banks to ensure that nobody is forging checks. However, you still, if you determine that you've been compromised, you have to let the bank know in a timely manner. I don't know what the timely manner is specifically. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be 90 days. I think what you have to show them is as soon as you found out about that you inform the bank. Now, a debit card's a little bit different. If you let your bank know in the first 2 days, then there's only a $50 loss. You're only going to be responsible for $50. If it goes past 2 days, up to 58 days, you could be liable for up to $500. And after 60 days, you could have an unlimited liability. So if somebody drains your account and you don't realize that for over 60 days, you might not get anything back. So it is a pretty serious issue that you have to look at. So what can you do? What options do you have to protect yourself against identity theft? Probably the most common one that you hear about is credit monitoring services. These are usually offered by the credit agencies, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. But they also have other organizations that do it. You might have seen those three guys that are always singing, the freecreditreport.com. They have a service like that. Now, this is a decent thing to have. What happens is if there's any change in your credit report, such as new credit being authorized, people looking into your credit report, anything like that, they're going to alert you to it. Now, the problem with it is it only alerts you after the fact. So if somebody steals your credit, opens up a few credit card accounts, maybe even tries to open a bank account, you're not going to find out till after this has taken place. And in many instances, what I found is they don't do a very good job of getting that information to you in any kind of timely manner. It could be 30 days, could be 60 days. Every credit agency gets information from the banks in different periods, so it could take a while for you to even find this out. So I always say the credit monitoring services are better than nothing, but they're really not a good service to help protect yourself against ID theft. The other one that's pretty well known is LifeLock. You see a lot of commercials for LifeLock. LifeLock's a little bit different. It's not one of these where it just monitors your credit and lets you know if something changes. They try to preemptively stop anyone from stealing your identity. The way they do that is they do fraud alerts on your account. and I'll talk about fraud alerts here in a minute, but this is something that LifeLock has to do every 90 days. You do a fraud alert, it's good for 90 days, and then it lapses. So every 90 days, fraud alert takes the burden of redoing the fraud alert with all the 3 agencies. They do it for you. So they're continually placing these fraud alerts. The other things they do is they try to minimize risk by reducing the pre-approved credit accounts that you get in the mail. They try to get you off as many junk mail lists as possible. So there's a lot of less mail coming to you, a lot less credit applications, a lot less opportunity for somebody to steal those mailings and take out credit in your name. The other nice thing about LifeLock is they do provide up to $1 million in coverage if your identity is stolen. So if your identity is stolen and you're liable because your debit card, your bank account, your credit card, you might also have expenses trying to get some things expunged from your credit report. Well, LifeLock is going to give you up to $1 million to take care of that. So that is a nice feature about it. Price-wise, I think you're looking at about $100 for LifeLock. Too bad, but I think there's some better options out there. And the first option is called a fraud alert. Now again, this is what LifeLock does continually for you. Every 90 days, you can set a fraud alert on your credit report with the 3 credit agencies. Now, it doesn't mean you can't access debt when you have a fraud alert. Essentially what happens is lenders look at your credit report to see if you're creditworthy. And what they'll find when they do that, when you have a fraud alert, they'll see that there is a fraud alert on there. Again, it doesn't mean they can't give you credit. What it means is they have to do a few extra steps to verify your personal information to make sure that it is in fact you applying for credit and not somebody trying to steal your identity. You'd think that would be something that every lender would do ordinarily, but that's not necessarily the case. So if you get a mailing with a pre-approved credit card, and what they're going to do before they send you that is find out you have a fraud alert. Probably won't send you that mailing, or if they do, they have to take extra steps to ensure that somebody just didn't pick up that credit application out of your mail and try to mail it in to get your credit card. Again, this is a pretty good option, but as an individual, you have to remember to do this every 90 days. And what I find is most people don't do that. So, again, it's something that's not a bad idea. I think it's a better step than LifeLock because you don't have to pay $99 to do this. But I think there are better options out there, and that better option is a credit freeze. So a credit freeze is a step up from a credit fraud alert. A freeze basically blocks your credit report to any lenders. So if somebody's trying to get a car in your name, if somebody's trying to get a credit card, open a bank account, when they go to check your credit report, it's not going to show them anything. So that's going to tell the lender, we're not going to loan to this person, or we're not going to open an account for this person. Typically, it doesn't mean that they all will do that, but that's what you're probably going to find, is they're not going to lend anything to somebody who essentially is not giving their credit report to anyone. Now the nice thing is you can do this yourself. You can go online at the 3 credit bureaus and do it all online, or you can send them a letter requesting that you do this. Now there is a cost associated with it. Each state dictates the cost. So usually you're going to find you're going to pay between $5 or $10 to put a freeze on for all 3 agencies. So you're looking at $15 to $30. That also includes if you try to unfreeze your credit. So you want to, all of a sudden you want to refinance your mortgage or get a new credit card, you're going to have to unfreeze your credit. So then again, you're going to pay $5 to $10 to each agency. Now it can be free if you do have your identity stolen. So if somebody steals your credit card, if somebody hacks into your bank account, whatever, if you get a police report showing that your identity was compromised, the 3 credit agencies will give you a free credit freeze. Now the only real big downside to this, other than the cost, would be you really don't want to do this if you're going to be taking out new credit in the near future. So if you have your mortgage set, you're not going to refinance, You have other credit cards you're going to use. You're not planning to purchase a car with debt in the near future. Credit freeze is absolutely fantastic. But if you think you're going to be taking out debt soon, you might be better off doing uh, a fraud alert rather than a credit freeze. So what if fraud does happen to you? What do you want to do? What steps should you take? The first thing is obviously alert the institution. So if it's your credit card, you're going to talk to your credit card company. If it's your bank account, talk to your bank. You also want to make sure that you're kind of covering your tail end. You send a certified letter with a return receipt, or if you correspond via email with the institution, you want to make sure that you get a confirmation that they received your email. This is just going to be able to show that you, in a timely manner, alerted the financial institution to your identity theft. So if they ever come back and try to make you pay more than what you think you should pay, this will prove that, yeah, in a timely manner, I alerted you. You obviously want to close any affected accounts, get new credit cards, get new debit cards, get a new checking account number. You want to issue stop payments on checks. So on all your checks, you want to make sure that you've put out there, you want to issue a stop payment. Could be a pain, but definitely something you need to do. Again, you want to do a fraud alert or a freeze on your credit. You also want to file a police report. Now, you're not going to get anything from the police from this. They're not going to catch the bad guy, more than likely. You're not going to get any retribution. But again, what you can do is once you get that police report, you can go back to credit agencies, say, hey, how about I get a free credit freeze? Or you can show them the fraud alert. They won't try to charge you for that. It also provides some validity if the financial institution tries to give you any problems, and if you really have your identity stolen, where there's several accounts opened up, where bank accounts have been opened up, where there's really going to be a headache, where they've tried to take over your Social Security number. This will show that as soon as you found out about it, you tried to do something. So it will help you clean up the mess. And you also want to keep a detailed log of all your activities for 7 years, so that if they try to come back and say anything, that you will have a good record of what you did. Now, some other preventative measures you can take. The first one is electronic statements. Your snail mail just isn't safe. Anybody who's going to try to steal your identity through mail knows when your brokerage statements come, when your bank statements come, when your credit card statements come. Usually it's at the beginning of the month. So if they're going to want to take your identity, they're going to go at the beginning of the month and start stealing your mail, going through your mail. A lot of people say, oh, electronic statements. Well, if I get it electronically, a hacker might get into my bank and download this information. And to that I just say, look, if they're able to hack your bank, they're not going to waste any time going after an electronic statement. They're going to just go straight to your account and drain it that way. So I really don't think that there's a lot of extra risk with electronic statements. In fact, I think it's going to help you reduce your risk. The other thing you want to do is shred your documents. If it's got your name, if it's got an account number, especially if it has your Social Security number, you want to shred that document. I know it's a pain. It's much easier to throw things in trash, but just shred them. This includes any credit card applications you get through the mail. This includes any junk mail where they're trying to solicit debt to you. Just shred it. It makes your life so much easier. You don't have to worry about anybody getting that. The other thing you want to do is check your credit report on a consistent basis. Now, you can get a free credit report from each of the 3 agencies. The government has mandated that they provide that to you. The site to get that is annualcreditreport.com. What most people end up doing is they go to that site and they get the report from all 3 agencies at once. So you only get it once a year. What I do is I get it from each of the agencies every 4 months. So I know every 4 months I'm going to be checking my credit report. So I may start with TransUnion, and then 4 months later Experian, and 4 months later Equifax. So that way I'm consistently getting a free credit report from all the different agencies, and I'm doing it in a more timely manner. Another thing is don't use debit cards. As I mentioned in the beginning, if you alert them within 2 days, you're only liable for $50. But what if you don't? What if you don't notice it for 30 days? So then all of a sudden you're up to $500. And what if you don't check your account very often? and all of a sudden you could be liable for the whole thing. And thieves, you have to remember, they're pretty smart. They know what they're doing. If they get your debit card information, they're probably not going to try to drain your account right away. They're going to try to get maybe a $50 or $100 charge, something that may go unnoticed. And then you do it again the next month. And then after that, that's when they're really going to start to ramp it up. So just, my thing is get the credit card. A lot of people say, oh, I don't want credit, don't want to deal with credit. Just treat the credit card like your debit card. If you go and you purchase something on your debit, it instantly comes out of your checking account. If you do it with credit, you actually have maybe 30 days until you have to pay that bill. So you technically get a little bit of a float. You can leave it in your money market, your checking account, even though you're not getting much interest on that, but you can get a little bit of interest for 30 days that you otherwise wouldn't get with a debit card. Plus, you've reduced your identity theft risk. The other thing, I think most people know this, but it's always good saying it, never, ever, ever give out your social security number to someone you didn't contact first. So if you get a phone call, if you get an email, any kind of unsolicited contact, and they ask for your social security number, do not give it to them. Even if you're pretty confident it's your bank or a government agency, just tell them, hey, I just want to call you back. I'm trying to protect my identity. Never, ever give it out when they contact you first. If you contact them, if you call the IRS or you call a government agency or you call your bank, then you know you can give out your social security number. Otherwise, just don't do it. The last thing is, a lot of times on the back of debit and credit cards, I put please check ID. So sometimes if if it's a good waitress or waiter, if it's somebody at a store that's good, they're going to ask to see your ID. It's just another little step to try to prevent any kind of identity theft. So that's basically it. Just wanted to go through things real quick. If you have any questions, you can contact me at kirk@picketfencefinancial.com. Also, if you'd like to get my newsletter, which provides a lot of monthly information and also alerts you to any webinars or videos that I'm doing, you can find that at my website, picketfencefinancial.com, or on my blog, savingyouFromWallStreet.com. Thanks for listening.